Hey everyone, welcome out to episode 3 of Good, Bad, and the Geeky. I think it's 328, but before we talk about what's in this episode, we have a special guest. We have Casey with us.
Hello, everybody.
And but let's talk about our sponsors. We got Pack Rat Comics. You can go to packratcomics.com, get comic books, board games, graphic novels, T-shirts, more. They're so awesome. It's where we usually used to record Good, the Bad, and the Geeky live and Rocky and Bullwinkle. And they're such a great group. They're family-owned. They're the 2015 Eisner Award-winning Pack Rat Comics. You can only win that award once for Best Retail Shop. Right. Yep. And they're amazing. Matter of fact, Free Comic Book Day is coming up May 6th, so we'll be plugging that as we go along.
Mark your calendars.
Hey, right. Audible. Do you like podcasts, Casey? Do you like audiobooks? Because they're the same, really.
Right.
Right? And so you can go to audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. Get a 30-day trial, over 200,000 titles to choose from. I think it might be 280,000, but I don't know anymore. But 200,000, 280,000, whatever. There's a lot, so many fucking titles to choose from. If you sign up for a trial, a little money goes our way, bonus for us, but you get an audiobook out of it for free.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Awesome. Now, for the shit I do, which is a segment my friend Nathan called it. He's like, this is the shit I do. My SIDs.
Okay, you weren't just talking out of turn there.
No, this is the shit I do. You can check out Ultimate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you didn't know, I'm a big Ninja Turtle fan. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Might get to it.
Which is utmnt.com, or you can check out the Rocky and Bullwinkle podcast, Magical and Unauthorized Misadventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, by going to gbgpresentspod.com. As we gear up for season 2, check back, listen to season 1. And last but not least, we are part of the It's All Been Done Presents Network, or IABDP. Yeah, you know me. That's what I like to do. And speaking of the IABDP, yeah, you know me. Every now and then, there aren't enough hours in the day for readers. IABD Presents has given you a solution. When you're craving that story, Casey, dig deep into stark, snorry story. Fuck. On 3, 2, I'm not going to cut this out. 1, dig deep into stark, snorry snacks. I don't feel like I said it right. Some tales are as short as one paragraph and will satisfy your appetite for fiction.
And tongue twisters.
No shit. Read it all at once or at once per week at www.iabdpresents.com. Stark, story, snacks. Said it right that time. If I just slowly pronounce it and don't try to say it like a normal human being would, or how you would think a normal human being would, it would probably go better. And you know what? Actually, one other thing, because it's rather important. MadLab is back with its first sketch comedy show in almost 5 years, written by their ensemble. I'm guest starring in it, which is awesome. It's everything you want to know about sex and some things you probably didn't. It's sketchy sex. Tickets are $10 for MadLab members, $13 for student or seniors, and general audience members are $15. Check that out and go to MadLab, I think, .net for more information.
Yes, it is. MadLab.net.
Or if for whatever reason you forget, just think MadLab and Google it. Boom, you're there.
There's also that option.
Yes. So, but this episode, we might talk about other stuff. We might not. You know what? We'll stay right on topic. We won't do it. We won't go off the bat. I feel like I'm getting this vibe.
We would never.
No, I'm not. I feel like we're just going to talk about the film Logan.
Yes.
With Hugh Jackman playing.
Shink. Those are his claws.
Sorry. No, yeah. Snickety snick.
Snick, bub.
Yeah. I'm the best at what I do. That was someone's gut spelling out, by the way.
It's everywhere. You can't see it.
Yeah. Well, in the Logan version, it would be everywhere. In the X-Men version, it would be like
it'd just be nice and dry.
But you know what? We might talk about that.
Yes.
So, do you have anything you would like to plug before we begin, sir?
Just MadLab again. Not just for sketchy sex, but for all forms of great original works.
I actually agree.
Great
with
original
that, yes.
Theater in Columbus. And also be on the lookout for the OGP Fringe Fest. All right. And that's coming up in May. I don't have the dates yet, but just kind of look up OGP. There's the Facebook page that you can get to through MadLab's Facebook.
I'll try to put a link in the show notes.
I would really appreciate that because we've had a lot of fun there in the past. That's where we met. So
yes, it is. Yes,
so check it out.
Yeah. So
a lot of good stuff.
We'll talk about that here in a second. But let's roll episode 328 of the Good, the Bad, and the Geeky.
28.
Logan. that's how the best stuff ever happens. Is you just start shooting your mouth off on face. It's also how the worst things happen too.
That is very true.
You know,
you gotta be careful. So it's what you do it about.
Right. So we are rolling, and I have with me Casey. And Casey, I know him through doing theater here in Columbus. He's with the MadLab crew, as I like to say.
Oh, yeah.
And he was also my Kif Croker.
Yes, regrettably, that is true.
Kif, tell the listeners that I made it with a woman.
I would, sir, but I just pulled my jaw earlier. I don't want to injure it.
You have a jaw? I didn't even know.
You slapped it several times, sir.
So we met at Fringe Festival last year where we were. I just remember it was a very last minute thing, like the day of or the
Yeah, it was. Well,
I don't know how it was for you, but
it was actually that minute, like within seconds. I was there to watch mostly.
Yeah,
and
I didn't even know I was having a Kif Croker. I was just literally like, "Can you read
didn't
some
know
quotes?"
I was being one.
All right, yeah, so there you go. So
it was great.
No,
it was hilarious.
It was awesome, and what made me sad though too, because apparently you organized or did you guys did like a reenactment of the Avengers.
I did. Now that's what I did beforehand. We tracked down the entire actual script written by Joss Whedon in his own the way that he wrote it, with the full descriptions and everything.
That is so cool.
You know, so it wasn't just your average screenplay. He's talking about, like, here's Captain fucking America. Like, it's written that way. He actually types that way. And we acted that out. Me and a band of other awesome people just all got together. I really still shout out to all of them, you Avengers out there, if you're listening to this. They were just awesome. And we read the whole movie. It took 2 hours, like the actual runtime.
Okay, because I missed it. Did someone read the action dialogue?
That was me.
That was you.
I read the action.
And everyone else acted.
And then I acted a lot of the action as well and described it. And I got I spent $100. It was $100 production. You know, the real movie is $54 million or whatever. And you know, I spent $100 at thrift stores getting our props and getting everything that we needed.
Dude, that was sweet.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
I made my Captain America shield out of a Frisbee and some construction paper.
And dude, that's awesome.
It was amazing. It was like, you know, I played Avengers on the playground with my friends since I was 7, you know, back when I was 7 years old, and it was just awesome to do it as an adult again.
Okay,
you know,
so now here's the question.
All right.
Who is your favorite Avenger? And you have to choose one.
Oh, that's easy. I mean, by far, you know, this is incredibly biased, but Captain America. You know, and he was
Why?
I voiced him I read for him. And Cap is my favorite because he is the you know, combat leader ostensibly of the Avengers. But out of the big three, you got, you know, Cap, Iron Man, Thor, and then you got, you know, the other core members.
Sure.
You know, aside from your Black Widow and your Hawkeye, who are more like support type characters when they're in a battle, Cap is one of the most vulnerable Avengers. You know, Iron Man's in a suit of armor. Thor's a freaking god. And then this guy, you know, he can just throw his metal shield and do awesome backflips. And yet he puts himself in the front of all the danger instead of just shouting orders from the back like a lot of, you know, bosses and or people in government will in real life, like, you know.
Oh, we're not
I'm not going to get too political. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. If you did, no one would be. Let me put it this way: I have grown more political these past 8 months.
Oh yeah,
which is sad, but
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it. Why, you know, he does have some enhancements. He's not totally human, but I mean, compared to like Tony Stark or, you know, Thor, like he's much more vulnerable. And yet he leads through his behavior and through, it's his tactics in terms of battle. Like it's his strategic thinking, how he can coordinate all their powers probably better than they could on their own. And just how much of an example he is through his actions. I've always respected that, even, you know, as a little kid. So,
dude, that's okay. Now, see, I'm not gonna lie. Cap is not my favorite. Mm-hmm. Okay, but because of the movies, I am way more into Captain America.
Yeah.
Well, because that's the thing is okay,
they've done a good job.
They
in
did
those movies.
And okay, so my two, I just don't like the leads of, well, the somewhat leads of the characters. So, like, for example, if you had to ask me who is my favorite Disney or Warner Brothers character, it would not be the bunny or the mouse. I'm the ducks all the way.
Yeah.
I love Daffy,
right?
And then I love Scrooge, the boys, but Donald. I love yeah. And I don't know why that is, but I guess in the same instance, I look at Marvel, and my first instinct is two things. It's Captain America, and then the other guy I've plastered everywhere around here is Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
I'm a fan of Spidey, but for DC, that is Superman. It's either Superman. That's what I'm saying. Like
or Batman.
Or Batman.
Right? Is that...
But Batman I love. Superman though, because I feel like Batman has a great moral code, but he's constantly faced with like dilemmas.
True.
And I guess from what I remember growing up, I don't remember Captain or Soups ever having those dilemmas.
It's true. They don't quite as much. Yeah,
it's not just heavily publicized. So like when you're a little kid, you just see, oh, he's for the red, white, and blue.
Absolutely.
And that. So I guess when you see the movie, you're like, oh wow, there's actually a 3-dimensional character
there. Is.
There.
And I think Winter Soldier did a great job. The second Captain America film did a good job because a lot of people who don't know about Cap will just automatically think this guy's a propaganda symbol. He's just pure, straight, full-on propaganda. Maybe that's how he was created, but over the years, there's been several times where Captain America has rebelled against the government, fights enemies both foreign and domestic, just like it says in the Constitution.
Yeah,
so
right.
He will go against the government if it goes against the principles he stands for, and that's what I think is
Civil
awesome
War, the original comic book version, is a good example of that. And it makes me sad they didn't... Well, I understand they're not in that place where they could honestly do that. They couldn't
do justice to the storyline completely the way it is done in the comics. They had to morph it into its own thing for the movies, which I thought it worked. I thought it was great.
The movie version was great, but like there was a part of me I was like, how are they going to do it? Because if you read that's the weird thing is that at that time I was fully immersed in Marvel universe comic wise, and so like I was like, well, Spider-Man just got a mask. Like I saw everything leading up to it. I saw everything that was happening for everybody. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is a good. Well, I didn't like how it ended, which was okay. Yeah. I felt like the real ending was issue 25 of Captain America where he gets assassinated.
Oh yeah,
and I just felt like
tough stuff, man.
Which it was so good. But I just felt like the normal ending, which is normal humans run up and start attacking Captain America and Tony, and they're both like, "Wait, we can't do this anymore." Yeah. I'm just like, you leveled half the fucking city. Or half a city block.
Now they realize.
Now they realize this is a bad thing. I was like, come on, man. Yeah,
exactly. So, I see where you're going.
But everything up to that point was real done. I mean, again, I really relate to Peter. I think a lot of people relate to that. Well, if you were a superhero, those are the problems you would probably have.
Oh, yeah, Peter's role in the comic book version of Civil War is amazing because I think he like you just said, it's very relatable. You don't always know what side to choose when you're in a divisive issue right away.
And Tony does have valid points, which is at some point they're coming after you. But Captain America was right too. It's like this is kind of a freedom issue. Well, because we protect people, but Tony's right too in that you have to, there has to be cause and effect,
like checks and balances
for what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes it a great storyline is that it resembles real life politics and that neither Cap or Tony are completely right.
Right.
Exactly. And they each I think the movie did a good job of this, the comics did a good job of illustrating each of the points that they have and you're probably going to fall one direction or another, but the other side does have good points and I think that it's great. I think especially for kids watching that movie and kids watching this stuff, I think it'll get them to start thinking about complex issues. Like it's a fictional scenario, but there's scenarios like that in real life. It gets their brain working in terms of seeing other perspectives and seeing. I think it's a great way to introduce that kind of thing.
I will say, by the end of the Civil War, Tony is painted in a worser light than Captain is.
Oh yeah,
I mean, especially since, and again, and so is Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, because that was the whole thing. Is that they created a clone of Thor, which then murdered one of their friends in cold blood. He went mad.
Goliath,
which is
poor Goliath.
Oh, I know.
Blasted through the chest.
through with a lightning bolt from Mjolnir, or whatever the hell it's called.
Mjolnir.
I can never say that. Well, I say a lot of shit wrong.
I didn't learn how to say it until I saw the movie.
Well, right, but
As a kid, I called it Mindjalore. I was like, how do I pronounce this?
Oh man, but I just remember reading that, and then Peter finds that prison where Captain Marvel is watching them, and it could give him cancer. And
it's like, what is it? It's the negative zone or dimension 42 or something, something like that.
I think it's both,
or something like that. Yeah, Richards is imprisoning all of the rebellious, superpowered people there, and I think I remember distinctly. Me and my friend, I have a friend of mine, former roommate of mine. He's a great comic book nerd. We were divided. He was on Tony's side, I was on Cap's side, and we were both 19 years old when that story came out. So we would get into serious heated arguments about it, red in the face, mad because we were young kids and we were taking it that passionately. And what changed him over was that issue where it turned out that Richards and Tony was putting all the captured heroes into these work camps. He was like, okay, can't do this anymore. This is fucked up.
Right.
So he switched his side just like Peter did.
I know, which was just and to see him. I just remember that was just so cool too to see him do that. But there were so many great things that happened because of that story in the books, like Planet Hulk. And that is so tragic.
I reread that recently. It's funny you bring that up. Yeah, it's great. It's a great story.
And also, can I also say I love the idea of the Illuminati.
Yeah,
which was a great setup too, because
that was cool.
That came out a year before Civil War, and if you knew what they were going towards, I don't think they were advertising it yet.
Yeah,
I just remember I was like, what's the point of all this?
These guys, right?
It's so cool.
Really
so wait,
cool.
You're saying Iron Man for the Avengers and the human mutated superheroes like Spider-Man and all that, Hulk and all that. That's represented. Then you have Professor X for the mutants, Doctor Strange for the mystic shit.
Right.
You have Namor for the mutant Atlantean people because he thinks he's in his own shit.
Right.
You have all these
Black Panther for Wakanda. Yeah.
Jesus, and you're like,
and then and Black Bolt from the Inhumans. He's representing them.
Right, and you're just like, holy shit.
They're all the most brilliant minds of the Marvel universe.
Right, and it's like they have a secret. And Reed Richards just because
true.
Because I stopped Galactus.
Just so fucking smart.
Right. Right. But I'm just going holy shit, these guys meet in secret and they've been kind of shaping the Marvel universe. And I'm like
this whole time.
I was like, that's an interesting twist. I love it. And then to see how it eventually plays into Civil War, you're like, oh, well done, guys.
So it was a nice little era for Marvel. And now that it's past, it's funny how when you're living through it, you're like, oh, this is pretty good, and then 10 years down the road, you're like, man, that was really good. Sometimes it takes time, I think, to appreciate how good some of those stories were.
Now, do you still read Marvel any? Or
I would, but I don't keep up on it as much. I'm mostly more internet based now. Just checking on Comic Vine to see what's happening with each character more often than not.
Right.
I don't
comic book resources.
Stuff like that.
Oh my God, Dr. Octopus! I think it announced today is Dr. Octopus is still alive. I was like,
oh really?
Yeah.
See, that's news to me. See, I don't keep up as much anymore because I had the advantage of around the time of Civil War, right? I think that was 2006. Like I said, I was 19 years old, still living with my folks. I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to make car payments. I didn't have to buy my own groceries. So that really helped out with the comic addiction. And now I just can't do it as much anymore. They're so expensive now.
I was buying so many books a month there for a bit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm talking about a year, but actually it was right before we actually started paying shit for the wedding. And I was just I was buying Guardians. I was buying everything. Actually, I'm a big fan of Bendis.
Oh, he's great.
Give anything he does a shot. And
he's a great writer.
And the one that someone got me into, which really pissed me off because it was so good, was Mark Waid and Chris Samney's Daredevil.
Oh yeah. Mark Waid has written some excellent Daredevil stuff. He has his own site where he does his own comic strips. By the way, it's just really cool.
It's crime novel, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he's really good.
So I got hooked into that. So I was doing that. Spider-Man. I'm a big. You don't see a lot of it here. I'm a big Ninja Turtle fan.
Did you know that Nick Argenbright really loves the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? You didn't? Well, listen to any other episode and you'll hear him ramble on needlessly about it. So, for the essence of your sanity and time, we've cut most of the full conversation of the Turtles out. If you'd like to hear more, hear it on the app. And so, we return you to the podcast already in progress. Thanks.
Well, not to switch.
No, you are fine.
You're the showrunner.
Please, dear God, because I could talk Turtles for the next hour.
I know, and I'm not trying to run your show for you, but
You're here for is that what you were going to do?
I was.
No, thank you, God. Oh, thank you, God. Because I'm sitting back. I was like,
do a turtles tangent.
Yeah, sorry. All right, so you know what? I'll start this up. So there I am, minding my business like I do.
Right.
And I'm surfing on the book faces. And this is something I see, and this is an exact word for word quote. I think at some point though I do kind of skip over something. So
it's okay.
But no, this is it's usually the very end. I think it's because you quote somebody else, and that threw me.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else would get that.
I write like a crazy person, so it's like stream of consciousness. So go ahead.
The movie Logan that part was added. Logan was possibly one of the most frustrating movie-going experiences I've ever had. I've never had such a great film fill me with so much rage. I figured going into it, from the small glimpses of the trailers and pictures of it I saw, that it would be one of the best, not just the Wolverine movies, but the entire X franchise. And of course, that's true. It's just, to quote myself on another friend's status about it, it only took them 20 years to figure out that a guy with fucking goddamn knives coming out of his hands and whose life is filled with tragedy shouldn't be marketed towards children or preteens. Hooray for getting the very last time this actor will play this character right. Such great timing on their part. I'll probably be bitter about this for a while. These idiots could have made 17 years worth of movies like this instead of accentless Gambit climbing up a wall with goddamn pool cues and a sewn mouth, paste skin Ryan Reynolds and the old man robot from the previous one. So I read that and I was like, my first thing, because I
very well read, by the way.
Thank you.
It was a great reading of my words.
So
thank you.
My first thought was like, well, I'm not pissed, but I am now, because I agree with that.
Because then it got you thinking.
It got me thinking. but then I did have some other thoughts.
Okay, all right.
So I will agree with this, though, on the basic grounds that this is the best representation of Wolverine from start to finish.
I completely agree.
And we should preface...
Because I said that.
I agree. Well, yeah. We should preface this for that there will be spoilers, so stop now.
Spoilers ahead for those of you who haven't seen Logan yet,
right.
which is a flaw. You should just address that.
So,
now.
By the way, are you still listening? Because 3, 2, 1, Logan dies at the end. Yes. You know what? Fuck you. This is your fault. You fucked up.
Yeah. We gave you advance notice. Yes. And honestly, I think that if you've seen the trailers and I'm sorry.
If you look at the trailer, you go,
it's kind of obvious.
Yeah. Logan gonna die. I just remember Professor X gonna die, Logan gonna die.
Look at Professor X. Look at the two of them. I mean, Christ. You can see it. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, okay, he's gonna die in this one. And it's obvious. And coupled with the news that this is Jackman's last time playing it, it's like, what do you think is gonna happen? You don't even have to know the Old Man Logan story arc or anything it's based off of to probably know this is it.
Yeah.
And
especially when then what's his name starts coming out the day before it hits theaters. I think Wednesday. Patrick Stewart's also like, I think this is my last one as well. Yeah. And you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
So if you don't know by that point, okay, if anyone plays a Johnny Cash song and so well like they do in that trailer, sad shit going to go down.
Dealing with some real shit.
And before you watch the movie, you're like, I don't know who that dude, that weird pale skinned dude is with the hat. He going to die. That dude with the arm, he going to die. Everyone but the little girl will probably going to die.
And that's true.
That's true.
They're not going to kill a kid. So pretty much all of the, you're right, actually. All the main cast members fucking die. Dude.
But it was so good. It was such amazing. A good movie. Yeah. And now here's the thing though. I thought the Wolverine was okay. I didn't love it.
Yes, I agree. I thought that it was a major improvement from the last one.
But
and
you could tell
the Wolverine.
Fox kind of.
Oh, they meddled.
Yeah.
They meddled because my thoughts on that movie, if you watch the first 2 acts, they are not at all like that third act. Because I mentioned that in my status, the old man robot.
Yeah.
And it's like that comes out of nowhere. At no other point in the movie. Now, they've had other mutant stuff earlier in the film, but they haven't had anything that outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, it was fairly, for an X-Men film, was pretty grounded, and he's just fighting more or less human enemies and dealing with some pretty good conflicts emotionally and whatnot, and then suddenly there's this stupid robot thing.
I'm not gonna lie, I've not seen it. I have the director's cut and I've not watched it yet because it was one of those things where
better. It is better.
It is better, but okay, so my wife, God love her, I got her into the Marvel movies.
Sure.
But the X-Men are not the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
And so she hasn't, so literally Wolverine was the first X-Men movie she saw, and so she was a little confused. But I was just like, I kind of get that, but But she loved the first half of the movie, and then even though she was a little confused with the last half of the movie, she's just like, I thought that samurai guy was going to be around too. I was like, oh, he's a badass in the books, and him and Wolverine are kind of like we hate each other, but we know we
respect each other as warriors,
right?
You know, and it's awesome. It's badass, and that's the thing. They ruined that. They threw that away. He's just a mutant he's a samurai mutant in the comics. You know, it's kind of similar to Shredder. He's not a big robot like what they did. And I remember reading from the director James Mangold. You know, he directed Logan as well.
Yeah.
So originally, I believe they were thinking about or trying for an R for the Wolverine. And then the studios kind of came in and hogtied him and, you know, pressured him and said, hey, you know, this has to be appropriate for kids and we got to be able to, you know, market action figures.
The original samurai died, though. The actual Silver Samurai died.
Right.
Like, well, because Wolverine was fighting him, and then I think the Cobra Lady Viper killed him.
Kills him. And
then he takes over the giant metal suit that looks like the Silver Samurai.
Correct.
Which is just so stupid.
Yeah. Horrible. Yeah, I mean, you can tell I'm still mad about it.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, so in Logan, at the beginning of the movie, he can't get all his claws out. And at first it's like, oh, it's kind of a joke about you being old because he's a dude, but instead of his dick, it's his claw.
Right, yeah, he's having a hard time getting it out.
The first thing I thought of was at the end of Wolverine, he gets his claws cut off. True. And so I thought, did that one not grow back yet? Oh, shit. And then it's like, no, he just can't get it out.
He just has a hard time getting it out, and you know, that's what the green juice was. It was a Viagra metaphor.
Yeah, well, like the ultimate... Oh my god! Such a good.
But it was
movie.
Awesome. I think it's funny. I think that Logan and just Wolverine is funny in general because it defies the typical convention of movie trilogies and movie series. In that, with each progressive movie, it's gotten better. This most recent one is amazing, and they started out as crap.
But can we always say, though, that when your movie is, and except for Hugh Jackman, who was amazing, but
he's good in all of them, even from the first. That's not my issues with.
Right, but if your first movie is X-Men Wolverine Origins, that movie is not a good starting. Like,
no, it's not. It's very easy to rise from that.
Yeah, and the Wolverine was like 5 times better than that.
It really was, but it still had issues.
Oh, totally. So like, I just remember the thing that really irked me the most while I was watching it was the Wolverine X-Men Origins was like, because look, I remember growing up, people would be like, you like every movie, and I was like, well, I do, but I criticize the shit out of it, like, you know what I mean? So I walked out of X-Men Wolverine going, well, it wasn't a horrible way to spend money. It's a summer popcorn film, but it's not a good Wolverine movie.
If you know this character, like, I could see.
And I collected those books that storyline was based after with Stryker and all those.
Oh yeah. And so I could see how, you know, if you're just a casual movie going fan, you know, it could be a fun way to spend the afternoon, and that's fine. But obviously, if you've been listening to the rest of this podcast, we are super nerds. For those of us who really devoted to this character, you know, it was just not true to the character, and it is, regardless of it being necessarily a good or bad movie, they weren't true to what it came from at all.
No,
and they changed so many details, and it was just sloppily made. And there's other things about Origins that are just cheesy. I remember there's 3 different parts in the movie where Wolverine is holding somebody and shouting up to the heavens, "No!" Like, usually want to have only one of those with the spinning camera, you know, like, it's so cheesy. If you're going to do one of those shots, please, for the love of God, just do one.
Doesn't he do it with Silver Fox twice?
Silver Fox, I think, twice, and then I think it happened to somebody else.
Was it Saber? No,
or maybe it's just him shouting upwards, "No," or something like that.
Yeah,
in frustration. I seem to remember him. I know it happens 3 different times. It's so corny. It's just like, God.
So the thing that really bugged me, and this is here's the thing. So I remember I use this as a good example. Like, I'm not invested as Transformers, but I still loved them growing up.
Yeah, I love Transformers. So when I watched the Bayformers,
I walk away going, that was actually okay. I mean, I thought the second and third one, because it was actually kind of doing a story, I was like, I mean, look, they're not good movies, but they're not great. They're not bad either. I mean, Transformers films, Transformer fans, I think, should have actual beefs with it. But for me, who doesn't know anything, I'm just like, but my point is that someone afterwards was like, here's a plot hole and here's a plot hole. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't think about that during the movie.
Right. But I'm sure a lot of people did the same thing applied with, you know, X-Men.
Now, for me with Wolverine, my problem is I thought it was a very common sense problem. But again, if people it might be with me and Transformers, which is, I remember young Stryker is talking to his clan. He's like, Wolverine has gone off the grid. We need to stop Logan. And he's like, but you can't stop him. He's adamantium. You made him that. Right. Yes, I get it. But I have a gun with a magic bullet made of adamantium, and if I shoot him, he will die. You just got to shoot him in the skull. And instead of giving the bullet to the guy who's like technically the mutant Bullseye,
right? Well, he's like that dude was supposed to be he wasn't supposed to be Bullseye. He was supposed to be Agent Maverick. There's this character from Weapon X called Maverick.
Yeah. Okay.
/ Agent Zero. He's had a few different names. Anyways, go on.
No, you're cool. Yeah. But I just remember...
He's super accurate, though. They established that in the movie. The man is a fucking crack shot.
Right. And don't get me wrong about Deadpool's its own horrible, fucked up mess. But...
what they did to Deadpool in that movie is so one of the main issues I have with it. But yeah, go ahead.
Me too. But I just remember just general plot-wise, like just from basic A to B to C...
Yeah.
They don't give him the bullet, which just makes no sense.
It's very stupid.
And then at the end of it, he goes, if I shoot you with this bullet in the head, you're going to lose your memory. And I'm like, wait, I thought he was going to die.
Exactly.
But as we've seen in Logan, you going to die.
He does die.
He does.
Now, I haven't brought myself to watch Origins again, and I don't know if I ever will again.
That's true. That's what I remember. I just remember it was on HBO.
I don't know how much tolerance I have for the acting of Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas.
Oh my god! And here's the thing: if you look at him, he looks like I can't remember the
Wraith. John Wraith.
Well, yeah, because
he does look like him. I'll give him that. He got the costume.
That series in the '90s, I have those books downstairs. Sure. Matter of fact, the only difference is that Shiva was involved.
Yes,
and it was all about that team, and because that was the thing is that Silver Fox came back. Was it? I'm going to say her name wrong. She was big in the Wolverine. Mukio.
Oh,
his
Mariko.
Is it his betrothed or his beloved?
I think they kind of use both. It's like interchangeable.
But that was the thing is that she's the actually one behind it. So it's not only just Silver Fox, it's also her, and they both are coming after him. That was the twist is they took her kind of out of that. It was Silver Fox.
I remember that.
And I was just like, that is badass. And then the whole thing, he's like, you're just going to keep walking until you run into... You're going to walk around the world and be pissed. I was like, well, that's fucking lame, because we know he comes back in X-Men 2, Stryker.
Yeah.
But I would say, if you look at Will.i.am, I was like...
Because they couldn't kill Stryker, so she just... did that walking spell on him. Silly.
I feel that's the other thing too. I feel like
that didn't happen in the comics.
The movies, the only one they didn't do that with was Magneto. But I feel like all the X-Men movies, it's like if you're the bad guy, you got to die at the end, unless we use you in another movie because it's in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they can't shoot themselves in the foot.
Well, like Green Goblin made sense to die. Like Dr. Octopus kind of made sense to die, and those two were good. But but in general, movies that are not owned by Marvel, like except for Magneto, they kill them.
That's true. I mean, that's I think a cinema convention is to kill the villain. I remember talking about that with a friend of mine. Is that in the comics? It's common they want to keep these characters alive so they can keep doing stories with them, because comics go on forever. There's no end to the story, but in filmmaking is such a different medium, so it's more finalized. It's more final. So I understand that to a degree. I like now it seems like they're getting away from, especially with the MCU, they don't kill villains as much. They still do, but not as often. So
I feel like some of the ones they have gone away with, I think there's loopholes to get them back. Like
definitely.
Red Skull.
Oh, man, I never believed that the Red Skull is dead.
No, me neither.
From First Avenger bullshit. Well, he was not. Yeah.
Okay, supposedly there is a draft. I've heard, but I can't, no one has put it online. But supposedly there is a draft where, because apparently the Red Skull was supposed to be a toy for the Avengers movie toy line, and then he got pulled out because they get a very early script. They start doing
and then
toys.
They start making the merch right away.
Right, and Red Skull was one of them. And
no way, really? I've never heard that.
I remember that, and I was just like, and so now there's new things that came out. I think a few days ago. We're recording this, and they were talking about how the Red Skull. I think Samuel L. Jackson did an interview. He's like, so why aren't you in Black Panther? Like, he's like, well, I want to be. Fuck, I want to be. But I'm fucking looking for the skull. And I'm like, what? Whoa.
What does that mean?
But then the DJ's like, well, we got to go. Thanks, Samuel L. Jackson. Coming out to WWE The 5.
Oh, okay, cutting him off. Now, see, that's funny, man. Right? I'm looking for the skull. Interesting. Yeah, man, I thought I heard tell that Hugo Weaving, just didn't want to do it anymore, or he just didn't want to come back, or he was unhappy about it. And it's like, that's a damn shame, because I thought he did a fucking great job.
Everyone in that movie did so good.
Oh, they did. But he was...
Yeah, they all did good. good.
He was the Red Skull.
Okay,
man. He really was.
Here's what I think it is.
It's a shame.
I think that he didn't like the prosthetic stuff.
Oh, I'm sure it was not comfortable, but goddamn, it looked good, and he was the character.
Because again, those early Marvel movies, Branagh, Favreau, and Johnson, they're very old school filmmakers.
True.
And so they were like, let's put prosthetics on. So because apparently I've heard a joke is that if you watch the first Iron Man compared to anything Iron Man does now, it's literally Robert Downey Jr. wearing like a green screen suit.
Right.
If you watch the first movie, he's wearing like half armor, half green screen.
Yeah.
Like, because Favreau wants that bulkiness movement.
The clunk, and you know what? I liked that.
Oh, no, I did
in the
too.
first Iron Man. I remember seeing set pics where he was wearing that, the actual fiberglass armor. Like, he was really in that. They had a decent, like you said, part of it was CGI, but I thought that was a great touch. I thought it made it look really cool.
I wonder if he just didn't like that, and then maybe he just didn't have a good experience with Johnson. It's
possible, man.
It's
possible. It's a shame.
He did do another interview, I think, a few years ago, where he's just like, well, they haven't asked me anything. I mean, I might come back. I don't know, but I have a contract for 3 movies. I hope they don't hold. I originally he said, I hope they don't hold me to it, but now I think in the last few years he's like, if they asked me back, I would come back.
Dude,
and I'm just like,
you can't just have one confrontation between Cap and the Red Skull.
You just can't.
They are supposed to be enemies throughout time.
Yes.
And that's a cool concept. They fight in World War II, and then it's like he comes back to the modern age, and he symbolizes the idea of like, the Nazi, way of thinking might be having a resurgence. So that gives Cap that much more motivation to try and strike him down.
In today's political climate is
exactly
even more so.
It would be very poignant.
So poignant.
And it would. I mean, it would be daring of Disney, because I know Disney controls, the Marvel wing of films. I think it would be really ballsy of them if they had, Red Skull show up again and have him try to pull all this fascist shit in our country, and then Cap beat the shit out of him. I think that would be a wonderful message. I think it would be great.
So one of the best things ever was that you learned that, in rest in peace, Gary Shandling was Hydra.
Right.
And I was like, because that's one of the Iron Man 2, they dropped the ball on a few things. I just felt like they were building up. It's like the first 2 acts are amazing, and it's just like, we gotta rush to the end, boys.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was okay. It was average. Yeah, Iron Man 2 was just okay.
Yeah,
but it was cool because Shandling was in that one as a senator, and you see,
I feel like they paid off that plot line.
Yep,
and,
this whole time, and well, here's the thing with Winter Soldier. When I saw Winter Soldier, I always thought from the get go that if you remember this story arc in the comics, Red Skull, masquerades as an American politician.
Yeah,
and he has like a fucking Mission Impossible style flesh mask over his face, over his actual skull. I thought that was going to be Robert Redford. I thought till the very end. I thought, goddamn, wouldn't that have been awesome? That's the only way that you could have made Winter Soldier better, is after Redford's on the ground dead, like Black Widow looks away, and then his body's gone, and you see him in the elevator peeling his face off, and it's been the Red Skull.
Right?
Oh, no, that would have been so sweet.
I just remember I was telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I read Winter Soldier, and like, I think that's the fucking Red Skull.
Red Skull, dude.
Because why would you have fucking Robert Redford? Like a classy, like, why is he slumming? I mean, look, I love it, but I'm like, Robert Redford doesn't do movies like this.
Well, the real life reason was because his grandkids like the Marvel films.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm serious. That's why he did it.
I swear to God, I feel it was the weirdest thing. It's like Robert Redford doesn't do shit movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, that didn't mean.
Well, he doesn't do like
anything.
Genre films. He doesn't do like comic stuff generally.
I meant shit anything as in like I don't do any fucking shit chores around the house. Like I don't even just like close the door right. That's what I'm talking about. Like, he doesn't do genre movies.
Yeah.
Period. But then after that, he did that, and then he did Pete's Dragon. And I'm just like,
gotta pay the bills.
And if you have grandkids, I get that too.
I think I remember him reading. I remember him saying in an interview that he did it for his grandkids. He wanted to they liked those movies. It's like, that's awesome. That's really
right.
Cool.
So I'm right there with you. I was kind of bummed when it wasn't him, but part of me was like, fucking Robert Redford was in a Marvel movie.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so friggin' cool. I feel like if they had made a Cap movie, let me correct myself. They did make Cap movies in the 70s. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh, yeah, with, it's not
Reb Brown.
Reb Brown. Who was, it's not Warner
Captain America, Death Too Soon. That's what's one of what's called.
Or am I thinking of the one from the 80s, though?
Oh, there's one it was 1990, actually.
1990.
They tried a few times, and it just never friggin' worked.
It was on Sci-Fi Channel or HBO, and I watched
it's bad.
Okay, but here's the thing. I remember going, I was like, this is probably the best we're going to ever get. And so I was like, this isn't the worst. It's not like the horrible Fantastic Four film.
And I remember watching
Like
that
Roger
VHS
Corman.
Captain America when I was a little boy,
Right.
and it confused the hell out of me because I didn't quite get, how the movie industry worked back then, but I was like, okay, it's weird that there's a Captain America VHS, but I never remember seeing commercials for it, and I didn't see it in the movie theater.
Right.
I remember something was off to me about that, and I didn't understand that it was not picked up by theaters to distribute because it was crap.
Yeah.
And oh man. It's so funny. I've watched it to laugh. There's so many funny, goofy facts about that movie. If you look at Cap's mask, they do a comic book accurate costume, so it's not like the kind of.
He has the scales too.
He has the scales. They didn't do the modified version that they do in the modern movies. So if you remember how Cap has the wings coming out of his mask. It's a costume that really only looks good that way when it's drawn. You can't do it for real and not have it be really silly. His ears are exposed in the original mask, and in that 1990 version, they had rubber ears. They had fake ears. Look at the ears.
I didn't know
when he's got the mask on. If you look close, they're fake ears.
I just remember the thing about that was that the Red Skull only saw his face at the very, very end, and right when he became the Red Skull.
Awful.
And then they put it looked like makeup on top of makeup on top of makeup.
Yeah,
which
that's
I get
the
it.
thing. It's like they ruined. Yeah, it's exactly what they did. It's like it had every symptom of why comic book movies, what the problems with them were before the modern age. You messed up the villain, so the Red Skull got plastic surgery. So by the end of it, he's not even the Red Skull. He's just some guy with a scarred up face. And then with Cap, he is only in the costume maybe a total of 4 minutes of screen time.
Right. And
for most of the movie, he's just some guy. It's just terrible.
There's no point for it either. It's not like Spider-Man 2 where the whole point of the movie is that are you Peter Parker or are you Spider-Man?
And so he's dealing with it. It's a part of the story that he throws the costume away.
Exactly.
No, this is supposed to be his debut, and we should see him in that goddamn costume for most of the movie. That's what people have paid to see. And it's like, if you look at the older superhero films, they do that a lot. Like, it was like back in the day, they weren't confident in the concept. And so they'd keep the actor in normal clothing for like 90% of the movie, and then you only barely ever got to see them in their costume. And they've finally seen the light. I feel like Deadpool would have never been made the way it was because he spent this whole movie in his costume. Like, it never would have been made like that.
Oh god!
Like, seriously.
Did you? Okay, so
Deadpool. Oh, not to cut you off.
No, you're cool.
Well, all I was going to say is to tie back into Logan.
Yep. I was going to get there.
I feel like Deadpool is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why Logan exists, because it showed 20th Century Fox, that an R-rated comic adaptation can work and it can make money.
That is exactly what I was going to say. The only thing because I was going to do Rebecca Brown, but to go on another side tangent, or as I like to say, to Inception the Inception, is that, did you see the full director's cut of the Deadpool 2 trailer?
No.
Oh yeah,
I saw the little like teaser blurb before Logan,
right?
Which is hilarious.
It's that, but it's literally the director's cut of that.
Oh, there's
Ryan
more.
Reynolds. Oh yeah, Stan Lee's in it, and apparently he's like, "Shut the fuck up, Stan!" Like, because he comes out, he's just like, "That's a good costume." He's like, "Shut up, Stan! No one gives a fuck what you think." And he starts running real slow, and of course the guy's dead. Yeah. But it's little shit like that. You're just like, "That is fucking great." It's so, and I think there's alternate takes of the lines he says.
God, they nailed it so perfectly.
Yeah, but
so good.
But not. But you were right. I think Deadpool allowed Logan.
They took
to be
a
made.
risk, and that was amazing that they made Deadpool on not a low budget, but a relatively low budget for these comic films. Some of these movies, I think, cost like $100 million or 200, like crazy figures, and that's what Marvel's spending on a lot of their movies. And I think
it's up to $200 million now for some of them, which is
nuts. But I mean, they're making back like $1 billion at least. So
true.
Like, it ain't shit for them to spend that much. You see, Deadpool, I think it was made for like
60.
It's like 60 or something like that. Like it's under $100 million. I think it might be even less than.
I feel like it's like 30 million. Yeah.
It's like 30 or something like. I'll have to look it up, but I mean, it was cheap for one of those movies, and it made. I know it made a lot. Did it crack $1 billion? I don't know if it did.
I think it did.
But I think it did really. I know it did really well, and that I think showed Fox like, hey, we can make I'm sure Logan wasn't as costly either because there wasn't anything that crazy in it.
It's almost like a typical gangster film.
It's almost like an action film.
Until the claws really come out.
Exactly. Until they start having multiple like claw versus Claw type fights, versus mutant fights, which are awesome. Until that happens, it's a pretty standard action film, and I liked that. I liked that about it.
Okay, so what was your first thought when you saw the claws go into Professor X's chest?
Yeah, that was a nice little moment, man.
Oh my God.
I think I realized what happened at that moment, because they fooled me. I did think it was also, I thought it was Logan who he was talking to.
I know.
And then when the claws hit his chest, I was confused for a second. Like, I thought, maybe is this a mercy killing, putting him out of his misery because he's so old?
I thought so too. And
but then as soon as they cut to him, I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Well, I just remember they did that thing where it was like a shot of his face, like right. It's like if the camera was X's face, and he starts pulling away from Xavier, and you just see the shadow, and you're like, oh God, it is Hugh Jackman. Oh my God, it's Logan. And all of a sudden you pan back, and it's like, wait, the hairstyle's all wrong.
Yeah.
And
no, as soon as I saw his hair, I was like, that was the realization. It was like, no, a movie of this quality wouldn't have a continuity error. That can't be it.
Oh no,
you know, and then it's like, oh shit,
but that thing is like, did they get a hold of him somehow when he was out there? Did he trank him, or you know what I mean? Because
mind control him or some crazy
that's
nonsense.
What I was afraid of. And so I was like, oh my God. So then that would, because my thought is, originally I was thinking is when that happened, I was like, again, in a few seconds, I was like, oh my God, they mind controlled him. He's going to kill himself at the end of the movie because of his past. Because that's the whole point of Logan, which is his whole comic book career is Wolverine. He always trudges forward, but he always has that sorrow and horribleness of like, I kill people because I'm the best at what I do, but that's what he does. I kill people.
But yeah, and he does. There's some part of him does feel bad. You're right, and so one of his monologue about that, God, that's why it was good, because it didn't just have the action and the violence right from the R rating. Is they constructed some moments where they really let Hugh Jackman act. Like they
which is nice,
which is wonderful, and it wasn't just all about pure plot and pure action like the other Wolverine films. That's why it's so much better. It's because they let there be these character building moments. The director and the movie was sculpted in a way to allow for those moments where they said, okay, there's just not going to be any action here. We're just going to see and hear about what Wolverine's going through.
And can we also give a shout out for James Mangold for throwing Eric LaSalle a little bone?
Eric LaSalle.
Yeah, he's the dude from Coming to America. He was the father of the farm.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah. Is that who that guy was?
Yeah, because the guy from ER / Coming to America who played Soul Glow.
I know he looked familiar.
No, I'm looking at him, I was just like, because I remember I didn't see the name in the credits, I just saw LaSalle. I was like, what the fuck name is that? And then I saw him, I was like, LaSalle, Eric LaSalle, Soul Glow, motherfucker.
That is that dude. Oh, nice.
And then as I watched him, I was like, he gonna die too.
Oh yeah.
And then because I was like, he gonna die and the mom gonna die, but the kid gonna no, that was
no mercy.
Jesus, it was
no punches.
They really didn't, and it was so.
They did not hold back, and that's why it was good. I mean, that scene's it was intense. It was upsetting to me.
It was
to watch, and that was the intention. And they didn't sugarcoat that. They didn't pull back from that. They were like, no, you're going to feel uncomfortable watching this sometimes. And I think that's honest. They were very honest about how they treated the story.
True.
Wolverine was an asshole in that movie at parts. For a lot of it. And he's supposed to be like that. He makes the right choice in the end, but he does it. He
never gets there right away.
He doesn't get there right away, and he's always grumbling and complaining about it, and he does it reluctantly. And I think that's they showed that. They let him be a reluctant hero, and I think that's part of what makes him so relatable to so many of us, is because not all of us always do the right thing right away. We have to sometimes make this mistake of letting things get kind of shitty and bad before we.
We're talking about you.
Well, if the boot fits, man.
I'm just saying.
If the boot fits. No.
It's like Jesus.
Don't apologize to me.
Perfect metaphor for what's going on right now.
Right now that everything is screwed up, you're going to do something. So Wolverine's so relatable because of that. And the other X-Men films, I feel like they wanted to they were trying. It was in that awkward space. If you look at like the Wolverine and some of the other X-Men films, it's like they had bits and shades of that adult character in there, but they couldn't embrace it completely because they still had to make it child friendly.
Okay, so now this is where I wanted to talk to you about, because this is where now I feel like in the X-Men, I don't like X-Men 3. but I feel I feel like Ratner did what he had to do. He was literally hired to pick up what was left behind.
True, that movie had problems.
It did, and I feel like, but I don't blame him for. I blame Fox and I blame
it was
the writers.
handled
But
poorly.
It was, and again, like I remember, Ain't It Cool News did a script reading of the script where Wolverine died at the beginning of the movie.
Whoa!
But he came back at the end because he's Wolverine.
Okay,
which is she just
died, quote unquote.
Well, yeah, she disintegrated the flesh off of him except for like the skull and
the
which
holds his brain, so he just regenerated really slowly.
Right, and because originally Scott was the one, because it was originally Scott's kind of movie because he's Cyclops and it's Jean Grey.
He's Cyclops, and that's the love of his life. Yeah, and that's the way that story goes in the comics.
But guess who was not a big name at the time they were filming that? Is James Marsden. But right as they were filming that, Hairspray came out, and I think Enchanted came out, and I think they were starting to work on Hob. He was starting to become a name, and then they were just like, oops. Now, granted, Jackman did okay with the role, but I guess my point, what I was really trying to get is that I feel like, though, how Wolverine is with the X-Men and how he is by himself can be somewhat considered two different things.
I agree. And let me be clear. I know my post, I threw in the 20 years quote, since they started almost 20 years. For embellishment and to really drive my point home.
I agree.
That's why I said it. I phrased it that way. But I will say that I'm fine with Wolverine being PG-13 in the Team X-Men films because I feel like you're absolutely right. He does tone himself down when he's with the team. He's trying to be a superhero. He's trying to be a better example at that point. But when he's got his own stories and when he's on his own adventures are bloody and brutal, it's like his past coming back to haunt him, and he has to get brutal and nasty to deal with that. And his solo stuff always should have been R.
I agree with that 100%. Because
from the get-go.
That was the only thing that kind of struck me. I was like, well, I know what he's saying because it is for the point of it. But I was just like, there are times where I feel like they were a little like rated R, but it was almost like the Turtles. Like they cut away from it. So again, making it PG-13.
Exactly. That fight scene in X-Men 2, where he's running through the house, killing the Special Forces guy, that is badass. I'm going to say that even without the gore, it was sweet. Like, it was just too short. That's the only problem with it. It's just
anything
awesome.
Bringing those two movies are always a little, which is why he was the lead.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think they did a great job of introducing his character in 1 and 2. I think that especially 2, I thought they did a great job. I thought he was well introduced in 1.
Now, did you like Days of Future Past?
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay,
because that wasn't a Wolverine story. He was
the lead in it.
He drove the action, but it wasn't just about him.
He was almost the MacGuffin in a way.
Yeah, you're right.
Which was actually interesting. I don't remember seeing a living MacGuffin. Well, no, the droids were in Star Wars. Sorry, I'm thinking.
No, I hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, he was the device that drove the plot forward because he was the only person who could go back in time. The way they rationalized that was really cool, and it made a lot of sense. And that was, when I think back, I'm like, that really wasn't an action-heavy superhero film. It was just a really good sci-fi story, and it was very story-heavy, and I liked it.
First Class, I feel like they should have just ended First Class, the whole thing with that, and then do Deadpool, and then do Logan, and then just start it over from scratch. And I think it took X-Men Apocalypse. I finished that the other day. It was so... And I just remember my wife was sitting there watching me, and I'm like, this is the worst fucking movie. What the fuck are you doing? Hugh Jackman showed up. That's cool. Now we're back to the sheeness again.
The scene in that was badass, but then again, it was just like a little cameo. It was just like...
Oh, exactly. And again, you're just walking, showing... Actually, at one point, you're just like, that's a stunt double walking around.
Yeah.
It's like...
It was awkward because when you see that Wolverine scene in Apocalypse, it's almost, I don't know if it was done this way, but it really seems like they filmed it after the movie was done. It was just, and then put it in because they were like, they panicked. We got to have a Wolverine moment in here. We got to. And it's
right.
It's so tacked on and just doesn't feel like a part of the rest of the movie. It's weird.
You're right, because in retrospect,
it's cool, but
it's almost like very like last minute, like quickly throw Hugh Jackman in.
Mm-hmm. They did not have to have the story go there at all. They just were like, all right.
And Bryan Singer was probably just like, Hugh, You remember me, right? The guy who gave you your career. Yeah, and he was like, I remember you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, I'll cut up some guys for you again.
Yeah,
no problem.
I mean, you gave me my career. I saved your production. We're not even yet. Well, I genuinely though feel like he does. I mean, obviously, this movie's a good example. He does care about the character, so I think any chance to keep it.
His passion for it is so admirable, and
which is nice.
I know there's some actors I feel like are cynical about these characters, or think of them as just another part, and it did make his career. And the dedication. If you look at how he acts, and in terms of his performance, he's always, even in the crappy ones, he's really given it his all. He is doing this material 100%. If you just watch him compared to everybody else, it's like, dude, he is going full blast. No matter and. When you couple it with a good script and you allow for those good moments, then you get something like Logan. You can see how good he really, really is.
Oh, man.
When you couple him with something that's actually good.
And outside of Logan, I thought the perfect ending to his X-Men movie franchise, outside of Logan, not just the single movies, but was Future Past, because you brought the original cast back.
That was cool.
And you got to see that.
That did wrap up that story pretty well. I like that ending.
They brought Marsden back.
It was sweet. That was really cool to see. Famke Jensen's in the end. Halle Berry's in the end. And fucking Kelsey Grammer.
Fuck yes!
Yeah, dude.
I was like, that's the best part of X-Men 3.
He was great. That's just a shame that they didn't get to use him more. What they should have done was had Hank McCoy. They should have had friggin' Kelsey Grammer as Beast from the first movie.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
that would have been awesome.
I remember, this is back in the day
so
of the
good.
internet. Ain't It Cool News, and there was a site called Coming Attractions. And Coming Attractions was almost like every movie, even if it didn't go anywhere, had a blog almost for it. If you click, there was remember frames in the internet? The left side was frames of every movie. Like, I'm talking about 1998 versions of Godzilla 2.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, Mr. Shadow, the sequel to The Fifth Element. They had pages for every movie you could
every
think of.
potential thing.
Yes.
I remember that.
And
I do.
if you clicked on X-Men, there was so much crap in there about how the set, I think back in 1994 for the Statue of Liberty was built.
No shit.
And it was just like, you need to have a finale at the Statue of Liberty. And so they had to shoehorn that in.
Really? You know what? I believe that.
And,
I
Tom
completely
Rothman
believe that.
fucking hates superhero and Marvel movies, but Tom Rothman's a fucking idiot. He's the guy who was running Marvel, because X-Men, huge hit. Bryan Singer asked for more money, a lot more money. I think they made it for under $50 million or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
and the first one.
Yeah, I think he wanted $70 million.
If you watch it, it's especially now, it's they saved some money making that. It's not that it looks terrible, but it's just
but you can know you
can just see the sets.
Right. Well, it's just in the second one, he's just I think he was he went from I think 50, 60, he went 80 to 90 million.
Oh, yeah. The second one, you can see
and
it just.
I think they only gave them 5 more or something insane. Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the reasons why he walked away from 3. He's second one's even bigger than the last one.
Sure.
And
each one has to be bigger. That's just how it goes.
Right. And
logic.
For example, I think he wanted to add Beast in the second one, but you can't have too many blue characters.
Too many blue people. Whatever. It's mutants.
Yes. Who cares? And you could create more drama, possibly, even though it wouldn't be. Which is are they related? Even though we know they're not.
Yeah.
Because it's we know
Mystique is supposed to be Nightcrawler's mother, and they didn't ever go. They didn't go that angle.
No, they didn't.
And they didn't. And she's supposed to be. Right. They didn't go that angle with Rogue either. She's supposed to be her mom too, and they didn't. They never went there. So much drama, man. So soap opera.
And can I also say too, as a reader of Wolverine in the 90s, I will say that was my super biggest complaint. I mean, besides the ending of the Wolverine, was man. The Jubilee was with him.
Yeah. I think that's funny. I was talking about my barber is a huge comic fan, and right.
This is awesome. That's what it's like. Well, Ted, have you read Wolverine number 49 lately?
Dude, that's how it is. Some guys go to their barber, get their haircut, talk about sports. It's we literally, like what you just said, we literally talk about the latest developments in the world of comics and shit. Well, he's cutting my hair. And it's really funny because I've been going to this barbershop since I was literally 3 years old. And so I've never got a haircut anywhere else. So the guy knows me, really well. And anyways, he brought up a good point that there's this 80s, I think late 80s or early 90s X-Men story arc where Wolverine's, actually all the X-Men are out in the Australian outback. They're stranded there somehow.
Yeah.
And it's like a desert type environment, and then Wolverine gets lost, and then Jubilee, that's Jubilee's first appearance, is for some reason she's down under as well, and she's like on the run, and that group of cyborg assailants, like enhanced guys, the Reavers, are after Jubilee, and it's him and her and Wolverine are like on the run trying to escape the Reavers. That was the Reavers in Logan. They were those cyborg guys. So they weren't just normal thugs. They were a reference to that. And so I felt like my barber brought up the point that they kind of borrowed that a little bit of that element of the, the story arc with Jubilee and Wolverine on the run from the Reavers, but they just made her X-23 instead. And it was like they borrowed that. They borrowed from Old Man Logan. There was a few different things happening in that movie that they borrowed from. They just did an amazing job.
I like that they've made her a vampire in the new series. And in X-Men, she's a vampire now.
Is she now?
Yeah, she's like a vampire mutant hybrid or something crazy.
That's silly.
Well, when Marvel did the whole... now, granted, I haven't read it, so I can't... You know what I mean? I just know the idea sounds silly to me because Bendis took over all new X-Men.
So much going on.
Because Age of Ultron, the original storyline of Age of Ultron is he broke the timeline. Well, the way they fixed it is they broke the timeline because Wolverine killed Hank Pym.
Yes, I remember.
And then even though they fixed
it... For listeners, you might be lost. We're not talking about the movie Age of Ultron. There is a comic.
So confusing.
That was the weakest.
I love Joss Whedon though. He's just like, well, the title does sound cool. I was like, but
that's not the Age of Ultron story.
No, it's not. Ultron goes back in time and just destroys the timeline.
Fucks everything up.
Yeah, so literally everyone wakes up. And the last thing they remember is like, I was fighting Dr. Octopus yesterday. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, or actually in his case, he's like, I was fighting Peter Parker yesterday as in my body. And now I am the superior Spider-Man stuck in the Age of Ultron. But anyway, long story short, too late. It's a time travel thing, and Wolverine went back in time, killed Hank Pym, reset the timeline, and in the process, it fucked a lot of shit up. So then they had to go back and stop it again. And so, but literally by doing so, it broke the timelines, which led to like all the different Marvel universes
splintering. Is that what triggered that event? Okay,
it took a little bit longer, but because I remember the
what was the new Secret Wars? That's what it
was. Battle World Secret Wars.
That screwed everything up, and that was so confusing that they didn't call it Secret Wars 3.
I wish
they just called it Secret War, as if there's never any other two. Weird, Marvel.
It was
you guys are weird.
But I just remember like that was so cool because Bendis took over all new X-Men, which is where the 60s X-Men came back. Because that was the thing.
I remember that comic. I know that storyline.
So, did you read Avengers vs. X-Men?
Yes.
So you know how Cyclops killed Professor X?
Sure.
Well, Hank got pissed at that, and so after seeing all the time travel, he's like, I'm going to do one more time travel thing. So before they revert the timelines back, he brings the X-Men from the 60s back to the present, so Scott can see himself and maybe talk to himself and say, this is what you become. You become an asshole who kills
your father figure.
Right. And so the X-Men but the timeline breaks and they're stuck here. So, but Marvel now did that all new X-Men, and then they did like the female, like all the stronger women characters like Rogue, Storm, and then Jubilee. But Jubilee, that's why I read the synopsis. Like, so Jubilee's been a vampire for a while now, and
I know she has vampire powers.
I was like, that's so weird. And I've never.
I don't like vampires. I don't like them as a fictional device. I just don't care for vampires. I like Blade. He kills vampires, but I don't like vampires. So I don't like vampire
like depending
stuff.
on the situation.
Generally, I don't like vampires.
Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's okay to Angel. I like Angel and Jealous, but I don't look. Cool. Interview with a Vampire. That's an okay movie.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like my love of the original Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula film.
Sure.
In the book, good.
Oh yeah.
Everything else around
it's significant.
Yeah. But everything else around it, it's just like. I feel like it's overdone.
Yeah, I agree. And they're just not one of my favorite horror type monsters and tropes, and just not for me. So that's weird that X-23 is a vampire. I think, but yeah, with Logan, I thought they did a better job with X-23 than introducing her than even the comics did.
Yes.
Or even the cartoon, that horrible X-Men Evolution cartoon. I think that cartoon is awful. That's where she started. I don't know if you remember.
She started in X-Men Evolution.
Horrible.
And then they added, matter of fact, she's a lead character in all new X-Men. That's how I know. That's how I really got a sense of reading her.
Yeah. Doesn't she hook up with Angel or something like that? Like she has some kind of crush on it. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't know how to deal with it, really. Yeah, because he's a spoiled rich kid, but he's also a really good guy too.
Yeah.
And she's not used to someone being nice to her. I just remember.
Right, because she's like an emotionless killing machine, or has been conditioned so that her emotions are not her
Exactly.
main. If she has emotions, of course, but
Yeah. I just remember she got along really well with the triplets or the quadruplet psychic girls that White Queen was training.
Yeah.
Like she really, to the point where she was getting annoyed with them. She's like, "Why are you in my head?" She's like, "We're not in your head right now." She's like, "Oh, I hate you," and then she just walks away because it's like their first thought is we should kill him, and that's what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a joke,
with the X-23, I mean, originally I really, especially with that cartoon, I never liked that show. So I gave it a try, and I thought it was awful, and it was just so inferior to the 90s X-Men cartoon, which is awesome, which was great.
It was just as equally convoluted, though, as the comic books at that time were, too, where Cable shows up, and the timelines are getting fucked up all over the place.
Yeah, but I thought they did a good job with all that shit.
But all that stuff was good anyway.
It was. And
Strife,
the stories were
Strife?
Strife. Yeah.
Nathan Summers from the
big
other.
deal. What was that?
Executioner's song.
Fatal Attractions was, I think.
That was
an Executioner's song. Yeah.
Fatal Attractions where Wolverine lost his claw.
Yes. He didn't lose his claws. The adamantium.
Adamantium. Well, yeah. Well, he lost his claws, and I think the next because there was two storylines. I thought because I remember they had the hologram cover.
Yes, I remember that.
And the second storyline, which is where he got his bone claws, it led into Generation X. Mm-hmm. And I remember I had the first issue.
God, man, you're bringing me back. You're just
sorry.
like,
yeah, because
those were the days, man. I was in elementary school.
Sabretooth was a good guy.
Yeah, I remember. He's at the X Mansion.
Yeah,
dude, you're bringing me back.
Yeah,
this is a trip down memory lane. Just you talking about this shit.
But man, X-23.
X-23. I just really did not like her concept at first. I was like, this is a gimmicky character. You just made a literal clone of Wolverine. Like, what is original about this character other than the fact that she has a claw coming out of her foot instead?
And she's female.
And it's like, that is, I'll just go ahead and say it. It's a annoyance with me with comic books. I don't think that every popular male character has to have a female counterpart version made of him. Mm-hmm. And I know that might be an inflammatory thing to say, but the reason that I justify this is because I think that you can make a franchise and a successful female comic book character just based off of their own their own, what do I want to say? Like you have the Wolverine mantle and she's like inherited that. Okay, fine, whatever. But like Storm isn't the male version of any character. Storm from the X-Men, that's just who she is. And she's a female character from the get-go. And I think that's the way I would approach it if I was a writer. And so that's what turns me off from X-23, from liking her as much. Mm-hmm. Because, it's like, well, you're really just, as a character, you come from one who was original before you. That being said, I thought the movie introduced that concept and idea a lot better than the cartoon. I
agree, man. Which is that she was bred to be a mutant, or she was created in a petri dish.
Yes, and that was borrowed from the cartoon. But what I like about Logan is that, because in X-Men Evolution, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was just like an adult. Like they grew her into an adult pretty quick. And what I loved about Logan, instead of doing that, rushing her to being an angsty teen, it's like we get to see her as a little girl. And so this is the first time we've seen Wolverine as a father.
Yeah.
Very cool, at least in the movies.
Yeah, and so... Totally. Like, really, as a father.
So it's not, right, instead of being a father figure, he's literally a father and figuring this out. So instead of her just being a copy of his powers and abilities just in female form, you have a new dynamic with the character that we all know and love, Wolverine, that introduces this new character, and it affects the established character Wolverine in a way that we've never seen before. And I thought that was really well done. Great choice.
I also really...
Made me a fan of her.
I also really appreciate it because I'm a big fan of filmmaking, and I've studied it for years, and just especially story stuff. Especially as I get older, I tend to do more story stuff because that's where my focus tends to be. Like I'm horrible at dialogue, but I'm good at story structure, I feel like.
Okay.
And, but I really like, there was no need to really say that because this has nothing to do with what I was going to say.
Oh, that's all right.
Hitchcock always says, show, don't tell.
Sure.
And X-23, I think, is a good example of that because she doesn't talk much. And if she does, we have no idea what she's saying. And neither does Logan.
True.
Which, until the very end, he's like, Wait, You Can Talk?
Oh man, that was so great.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And that little girl was incredible. She was so good. Such, one of my friends said that, like, after seeing that, like, you can no longer give a pass for bad child actors anymore because it's like, or quote unquote bad performances. It's like, it might not be the child actor's fault since they're a kid, but at least blame the casting director for not casting a better kid, because if there's kids out there like this little girl, there's no excuse. Like, you can find some talented kids. She was amazing.
The only kids I can remember being actually very much enthralled with as I watched any type of movie was the girl who played Hit Girl. I can't think of her name right now.
Chloe Moritz, I think, or however you say that.
Yep.
She was good.
Yeah, she was good. And then I thought Haley Joel Osment was okay.
Oh yeah, Sixth Sense. Yeah,
Sixth Sense. But beyond that, though, you're there. But again, how many movies with kids have there been in that entire time?
Yeah.
So fucking many.
Yeah.
And how many horrible performances?
A lot of bad kid actors.
It's like it's almost like the old gag from. Okay, so I have a sheet of paper right now, and so this is what it says at the top: Debt snowball. Get the ball rolling and start attacking your debt, because I'm going to do that soon. And so, but say for example, this is like, it's almost like how people would read it at the Academy Awards if you're a bad actor. Debt snowball. Get the ball rolling and start attacking your debt. Right, and that's how kids would sometimes read in the movies, and you're just like, oh my god.
I believe her name's Daphne Keene. I think that's her name is X-23.
Yeah,
and. I mean, yeah, you're right. She didn't have many lines, but the one she delivered,
oh my
I was
god,
blown away.
Jesus,
that quote from Shane at the end, that is great. Whoo!
Yeah. Okay. So
what a little firecracker, man. We'll see more from her, I'm sure of it.
So before we end, I'll just throw this one out there. Did you know that Marigold set up this film in the Wolverine? Because remember, I think his sidekick, the Japanese, she goes, or whoever tells him his future is just like, you're going to die with your heart in your hands.
You're right.
And he does. He dies with holding his little girl's hand.
That's his heart.
Like, which is his heart.
Oh! Man, okay.
I didn't know that. I read it.
All right, that was my next question, because I was like, if you observed that,
I did not.
Not that you're not the man, you are fucking awesome, but
Thank
I mean
you.
that is
I wish I understood that when I was watching.
What?
Right?
That is excellent. That's just another friggin' reason why that movie was so good, because I loved it. I know we're about to end, but I loved all the little nods towards the rest of the X-Men film continuity.
God,
like when Xavier says, like, I found you were training to be a cage fighter, hooked on it. It's like, that was X-Men 1. He's referencing the movie.
Right.
I love it when they treat it like, hey, you should remember this. You know what I mean? It's not just, And
actually, one more thing before we leave, and that is, do you feel
tied in? That was great.
Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart should be nominated for Academy Awards
from this?
Yes. Because look, I know comic book movies get a bad rap.
Yeah, they do.
Like, for example, Heath Ledger, well deserved. I felt like. But do you feel like
now? I will say, and I know this might be controversial to say this, but I think I'm not so sure that Heath would have gotten the nomination. He got it too, right? Or did he get the nod?
I thought he got it right before he died.
Well, I don't know. Either getting it or winning it.
Wrong. I don't think he would have won it if he was alive.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm sorry to say that, but I think that his death really pushed the Academy to like, whoa, well, he died. So it was a great performance, but I think that that's what convinced them that he died for it, that he died for this part. Because the Academy, I have my own beef with the Oscars. Anybody who's heard me rant before knows that I have my beef with the Oscars. In my world, yes, they would get at least nominated.
I think, I agree 100%.
Both of them.
I agree.
For lead and supporting. And I know I probably will not see that.
I honestly feel, if anything, I think Stewart might get it. I think has a better chance of getting it for supporting. I have this horrible feeling that Jackman won't even be reckoned. I mean, probably he'll get a Saturn Award for it.
Oh yeah. Saturn or People's Choice or one of those goofy ones,
which is just bullshit.
Which I seriously doubt, realistically, that he will get any kind of nod, even though critics like it.
Yeah,
and they've all liked it, and everybody known who's seen it has liked it, but. The Academy is just so set in their ways, somebody's head's getting cut off in this film.
One other final thing, because I just got to mention it, because it like literally. So when you're watching the movie, Wolverine dies holding his little girl's hand, and he says, what does he say to her?
Doesn't he say, this is what it feels like? So this is what it feels like.
Which is fantastic. But then he looks at her and he just goes, don't let them be who you are, not what they want you, what they think that you are, which is like, they think you're a killer. Don't be a killer. Yeah. Be better than that. And I was like, and then I think he says, so this is what it feels like. And it's like such a great line.
Which is what Xavier was talking about in the, like,
yeah.
Like in terms of family.
But then it shows them having a funeral, which is literally ripped off what she saw from the movie Shane. And then as they walk away, there's the little wooden cross. I spelled it, and then she just takes it off. And I'm like, what is she doing? Is he going to come back? What's going on? And then she just turns it over to an X, and I was like, fuck you! And then at that point, I was just like, I'm not gonna lie, man, cards on the table. I was already sobbing at that point, and then that happened. It was just like Wolverine clawed me in the stomach and just eviscerated me.
Man, no. Listen, I'll admit to it too. I had some misty eyes at some points. Man, it was. If you've invested yourself in these movies, again, they've been making them since 2000, and it's a lot. That's a lot to invest in.
Yeah,
and I've grown up with these movies,
Professor
man.
Xavier
I've grown
was
up with
already
these
tough. Because, well, again, Patrick Stewart, like, he's been around even longer than X-Men.
Oh, sure.
Well, like, we know him as Patrick Picard.
As Picard.
Or Captain Picard. Here's a Patrick Picard.
Yeah.
That's alliteration. That's his comic book name.
Yeah, right.
Hey, ho.
I'm sure he'd answer to it.
Yes. Yeah. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, out of the ground, fucking Ian McKellen would just show up.
Right.
Because they're such besties. And you're like, fucking awesome. But no, yeah, I just remember I was like, like that. And then all of a sudden, I just started. And then you saw what you thought was Wolverine. And then you realize, no, it's the clone. And
man. Yeah, I'll tell you, man. It was not easy to watch.
It was brutal.
Patrick Stewart, he's an iconic figure now, and generations have grown up watching him at this point.
Right?
I mean, what a legend, man. And I love the fact that he's such a high profile actor. He's so skilled, so talented, has so many opportunities, and he has still come back to this franchise time after time, even though, he could have been like, oh, I'm beyond that now. I didn't want to do, like, no, he's
so good,
stayed in it, and they stayed loyal to it. And, I think he really probably respects it a lot. I can't speak for him, but he must if he keeps coming back. Oh, and, the dedication of those two has made it what it is. And,
well said.
Great job, guys. I don't think you're listening. I don't think those two are listening. If it ever finds them,
Hugh gets this he's like, well, the oppression was rather distasteful of me, but
I didn't appreciate that.
I didn't appreciate that, but crikey, they hit the nose right on the head. Right? Like he's like Oklahoma. That's an old bad joke.
The Wolverine musical coming soon.
That would be awesome. Well, for those who don't know, he was in Oklahoma when he got cast as Wolverine, so that was a little ha ha ha.
Song and dance, man.
Yeah,
he's the most brutal mutant ever.
Him and fucking Neil Patrick Harris. I would love to see them team up and just do some shit because I like musicals anyway, so I'm just like. Fucking anyway. All right. Anyway, that was Logan. Our final thoughts were amazing movie, really brutal. Check it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ditto. It's a great send off to a great character, but too little, too late. I still have that resentment, and I'm still hanging on to that. They should have made more like this beforehand, but I'm glad we got this.
This is what we're going to leave off with.
All right.
Logan was possibly one of the most frustrating movie-going experiences I've ever had. I've never had such a great film, filming with so much rage. I figured going into it from small glimpses of the trailers and pictures of it, I saw it would be the best, not just the Wolverine movies, but the entire X franchise. And of course, that's true. And we're going to leave it off with that.
Right. Thank you for quoting me. Thank you for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Bye.
We're having a good time until you start up, cheapers! Go have some coffee with cream or something! Because I'll tell you something! This is a happy place!